Got the new advisory in from the National Hurricane Center on Beryl that is still a tropical storm. However, it is important to emphasize it still has several hours left with its center over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico and is still forecast by the Hurricane Center to become a hurricane before coming ashore. And even though that forecast point that's valid at 7 a.m. Central Time is inland and the maximum winds forecast to be 75 miles an hour, it still has enough time to maybe not only be 75 miles an hour at landfall, but maybe a little stronger than that. And keep in mind that the closer you get to landfall, the more useless the cone becomes in terms of telling you where the impacts are going to be. Galveston Bay, you're outside the cone, you are not out of danger. We could have significant wind, storm surge flooding, and rain-induced flooding on the stronger onshore flow, wetter side of Beryl that, again, is anticipated to become a hurricane before it comes ashore. Why? Because it is over the warmer waters of the northwestern Gulf of Mexico compared to what it was over the first day and a half over the Gulf, which is warm enough, but now the waters are even warmer. The motion is slowing down, too, to 10 miles an hour, so that, unfortunately, gives it a little bit more time centered over water. Probably crosses the coastline 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, somewhere in there. But the end of the process of making landfall is, in many ways, just the beginning of the most dangerous part of the event tomorrow morning in the Houston-Galveston area and for a lot of areas in the middle and upper Texas coast, and then going inland from there. So that forecast intensity keeps a tropical storm all the way up into east central portions of the state of Texas inland. These systems don't just go away when they make landfall. Now, here's that NOAA plane that's headed back to base, but here's the Air Force plane that might be the one that eventually, before this system goes over land, is the aircraft mission that finds the data to designate this a hurricane. That's the main source of data they're going to use to determine whether or not it's gone from 70 to 75 miles an hour, maybe even stronger. But it's already strong enough, large enough. The storm surge warnings, the hurricane and tropical storm warnings, the flood risk are already significantly high. There's not a whole lot of difference if it crosses this threshold, but like we say, some 5-mile-an-hour changes are more important than others, right, in terms of perception. So this plane is going to go from southwest to northeast, head toward the stronger part of the storm. That's where it has a decent chance to find winds that are a little bit stronger. And why is it still anticipated to become a hurricane when it only has a few more hours over water? Not only are those waters super warm, but look at this jet stream enhancing the upper level outflow. The wind shear is very weak, and the thunderstorm activity has definitely been getting more concentrated near the center. Look how much warmer the waters here in the northwestern Gulf are compared to what it had been going over before. That is a lot of energy, and look at how the thunderstorm activity is really consolidating here on all sides of the hurricane. And if you switch over to the radar, you notice that there's still, some openings in the formative eye wall, but every once in a while your eye wants to believe that this could close off in the next few hours, and that is certainly possible. That isn't a requirement to become a hurricane. If you have the maximum sustained winds as determined by the aircraft, then you've got a hurricane. There isn't a structural component or a radar appearance requirement to make it a hurricane. Now, on the northern side of this, the leading edge of this storm, almost a hurricane, we've had tropical storm force gusts at Palacios that gusted to 39 miles an hour a little bit ago. So you're already getting tropical storm force winds and gusts. Bay City, a little bit inland, has already gusted near 37 miles an hour. And this could have really high rain rates, nasty lightning, could have some flooding on the roadways starting to accumulate, and the tropical storm force winds. Galveston has already gusted to 33, even in the absence of heavy rainfall, but that heavy rain is only an hour or two away from starting to impinge upon Galveston Island. So here's the future radar from one modeling component, just to give you some idea of what's going to be happening. The northern band could get to Houston shortly after midnight along I-10. And then here comes the center, maybe crossing land, say 5 o'clock in the morning, plus or minus. But after that, it could still be a hurricane at this point, and look at how the Houston-Galveston area will be on that strong side, the eastern side of what is expected at that time to be a hurricane. And this is also when you're going to have high astronomical tide returning with the heavy rain and the onshore push. So the storm surge and freshwater flooding combo are going to be very problematic. So again, here's that latest track and intensity forecast explicitly showing hurricane in the forecast, even though that point is inland, but it could be a hurricane on the coastline. And that could be even a little stronger than 75 miles an hour. That's at least possible. Even after landfall, after the sun comes up tomorrow, then you have the strongest side of the hurricane or tropical storm staying over the Houston-Galveston area. You know, in some ways, it's worse to not have the center go right over you. To have the eastern part of the hurricane or tropical storm going over you, and you don't get any breaks, and you stay on the strongest side, and the heavy rain lasts for a long time, well into tomorrow afternoon. And then northeast Texas starts to get in on it. So once again, here's what the northern end of the system is doing. We have the onshore push, and these numbers are deceptively low right now because you haven't maximized the onshore push yet like you will tomorrow morning. Plus, we are not yet to high astronomical tide. That's going to happen tomorrow morning and it'll last through much of the day. And so that's why these storm surge warnings are still up. The hurricane warnings are still up. And Chris Warren, who's in Kemah in the Galveston Bay area. Chris, I really hope people aren't waiting for a designation of hurricane to take this seriously, because the change in the wind speed that would make it a hurricane isn't going to make it dramatically more dangerous than it already is.